All right, we're back for Book of Experts TV. And tonight, we're talking about, have you ever thought about writing a book? Why would you even want to write a book? Because maybe you could actually take your business to a whole other level. And tonight we have a panel of experts coming in to talk about all different aspects of boosting your business with that book, whether it's why you should write it, how to write it, or what to do after you've written the book and you actually want to get it in front of more people. Those are the topics we're going to be talking about. Make sure you join us not only for the live stream that we're doing here, but also for the Q&A and the networking that we're going to do right afterwards. Those links will be in the comments down below.
Time for Book of Experts TV.
Topics you love.
Experts you trust.
Friction-free referrals.
Tried,
tested,
Trusted.
This is Book of Experts, brought to you by salesman.me. All right, so let's bring in our experts so I can introduce them to all of you guys. I'm super excited to have the group here. I'm going to first introduce Christopher Burton, MD. Christopher is a practicing physician who helps other physicians actually position and build their platform as thought leaders, and books are a big part of that. So we're going to be talking more with him. Christopher's joining us from Pensacola, Florida. I'm down in Miami. We've got a heavy leaning to the East Coast tonight. A lot of times we're all over the map, sometimes all over the world, but we're very East Coast oriented because Laura Elliott, normally our West Coast girl, is actually here on the East Coast with us on the Gulf Coast of Florida, up in, where did you say, Madeira Beach?
In Madeira Beach.
Madeira Beach. Awesome. Super happy to have you close by. I know you're visiting family, so it's awesome to have you here in the state. And then Diana Needham also joining us from up in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So folks, we have experts. As I said in the introduction, we're talking not only folks that why you should write your own book, but how you can do that, how you can create the best book, do it more effectively, leverage your time, and then ultimately, what are you going to do when you have that book in hand? How could that actually take your business to the next level? All those questions and more. That's what we're diving into today. So welcome experts to Book of Experts TV. Super excited because this has been a buzzy topic. A lot of people are thinking about wanting to, maybe have dreamed about having a book. That's why you guys are here to break this down. So let's start with Diana. I'm gonna pass the baton to you first. If you can talk a little bit about your background. I know you are a marketing strategist at heart. How did the book perspective, how did the book focus become a big part of what you're doing? And what do you do as a marketing strategist to then take that book and get it in the hands of more people?
Well, Tobin, I really have kind of an interesting background. I spent 26 years in large corporate. And as things happen in large corporate, there's a lot of merger and acquisition. So I was in the banking space and we actually were purchased. So my last big role in the banking world was running the program office for Chase. Yes, I said Chase, the bank Chase. And so what does that mean? Well, that means that I lived and breathed project management. So what I've done is taken all of the things that I learned from all of the project management, like how to break things down, how to put things into a schedule, how to organize activities so that we are assured we're going to get to the launch date smoothly and with as less stress as possible. And so what I've done is parlayed that experience and applied it to the whole book process. So when people come into my world, they're primarily entrepreneurs, speakers, or business leaders that have a big message that they want to get out in the world. They have something that is tied to their business, and they know that the message is bigger than they are, and they actually want to get it out. So I have developed a process where somebody can come into my world with an idea, could be vague, and 8 months later, the book is created, published, launched with an Amazon bestseller designation, and they have copies in their hand.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to underline for you, Diana, is the marketing side is really a big part of what you're doing as well. So you're looking at not only just getting the book out there, but as you said, the Amazon bestseller status, what's entailed in that. I think we'll dig a little bit more into that shortly, because I know folks will have a lot of questions. I also want to bring Laura on. Can we talk a little bit about, Laura, I love to call you my favorite ghost.
Yes.
You are a ghostwriter who has written, I don't know how many books at this point. I don't know what the total count is, but everything from, you are a professional writer from magazines and newspapers all the way through to writing books for yourself, fiction, nonfiction. We're going to dig deep into the process of writing the book, not just the book, but the best book that you can put out there. How did you come to be my favorite ghost?
Okay, well, I guess it came from a background that started out living in a family that was living a very global lifestyle. My dad was a hydroelectric engineer, and he lived in the jungles of the Amazon, building hydroelectric power plants all over the world. And so I got a huge worldwide perspective when I was growing up. And that just gave me this beautiful curiosity and ability to talk to lots of people, and lots of stories come from that type of experience. And then I really got my chops at the Los Angeles Times, where I really covered features, investigative reporting. And I also had come from E! Entertainment, where I was telling stories of celebrities and film and that type of thing. And so I married these different aspects with also my background in accountancy, where I started a ground floor startup company that went public and is now acquired by NCR, actually. So I have that hat also. So those are all my skill sets. I love writing for entrepreneurs. I live most of the time in very close to Silicon Valley in Santa Cruz, California. And so I understand Silicon Valley very well and the mindset there. And I also understand story from lots of different experiences, because I have the art of the interview down with lots of celebrities, tastemakers, that type of thing, writing for World Travel Magazine, LA Parent, that kind of thing. So I bring that experience to, I like to say I bring the world to my books.
That's a great tagline. I love that. Christopher, I'm going to be coming to you in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to give a shout out. We have a bunch of folks, including some new names in our audience. So I'm super excited. Mark Thibodeau, he says, hey, that's a great topic. Excited to hear that. Andrew Weiss jumped in and said, so excited as well. We've got a lot of folks that have been, they knew this topic was coming up, because I think it's on the mind of a lot of folks. And Christopher, that's why I wanted to hear from you. You were on one of our expert panels once before. You spoke about books. The whole topic was more about building different ways to build your business. I'd love to hear, and for our audience to hear, your perspective about why a book can be the difference maker, and maybe, put it in perspective of some of the other options, because it feels in marketing and growing your business, there's so many different ways and pathways to do that. I know you've made this one work for yourself and for your clients.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely a million and one different ways you can approach marketing and branding. If you talk to a lot of the digital marketer gurus out there, I've went through a lot of their programs. I've done you need to have a top-notch website. You need to have your own podcast, your own YouTube channel, your daily blog. You're posting onto every social media 3 times a day. That's a lot of work to do if you don't have a following yet, and if people don't know what you represent or where you come from, what's your approach to their problem, it's hard for them it's hard for you to gain traction and gain an audience. However, if you start with a book, you outline your format, your approach, your philosophy. When you give that to somebody, or somebody buys that book and they read it, they know right then and there if you're the right fit for them. It cuts out a lot of wasted time, energy, money. It just gets right to the heart of the matter and helps you dive into the business right away. Brian Tracy once said that the word authority starts with the word author, and that's for a reason. So if you want to be an authority in any niche, it always pays to be an author in that subject. One of the things that I recommend is, all those other things are great once you've become an expert in your field, once you're recognized, but start off by outlining your process and your procedures and get that out there. And let me tell you, if you give somebody a book to look at, or even if they see your book, that's much better than a business card any day. Business cards get thrown away, books get kept forever.
Yeah, so I think that this is one of so at Book of Experts, we have a whole community of folks who the number one complaint and the number one issue that I'm hearing from experts is many of them feel like a best kept secret in their own industry. They want to make that bigger impact. They feel called to do the work, the good work, and make the biggest impact for the folks that they know that they can help. But if someone doesn't know about what you do, or they're not sure, or maybe, as you said, you don't have the authority to draw those folks to you, it seems like a book comes up. That's why this topic is so hot. It's so interested. I would love to hear from you guys, maybe one or two of the biggest myths, the things that people don't know about this space that you guys have learned by doing the work. Diana, I'll bring it back around to you, but I'm specifically thinking about the person out there who's saying, I'm not sure. I think there's a book in me. I don't know if I have what it takes to do this. It feels overwhelming. What are some things that they may not even realize about the process?
Well, I love what Christopher just shared about being so clear about your audience. So where we need to start, like where I start, I always ask people, why are you writing this book? Mm-hmm. Why? And that's a hard answer, not a head answer. There's a difference, right? So when we have this big why, and we know that this mission, this calling, this message that we want to get out in the world is bigger than we are, that's what's going to keep us going. So I always sometimes we have to dig deep to figure out what that big why is, because I may be the first person that's ever asked them to connect the dots between their big message and, why they're actually doing this. And then the next question is, who specifically is this book for? And I want you to see a person, one person, not a sea of faces. And what's the big problem? They're looking for a solution. You know how to fix it. You've got the solution. So just working through, that's all part of strategy. So that's where I start with people. So, if you're thinking nobody knows who I am, or nobody cares about what I have to say, what I would say to you is that is the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Mm-hmm. Because here's the thing. How many books have we read? Let's pick any topic, branding. And we started reading this book, and we got a few pages in, and we just laid it down because it wasn't speaking to us. But we picked up the next book about branding, and we were drawn into the story, and we were drawn into what this author was saying because it resonated. Mm. So I remind people that there are people waiting for your message, and they can only hear it from you because you are the only one that has your story, that has your experience, that has all the teaching and training and mistakes, all of it. We come to clients with a culmination of all of that. You are the only one. You are the expert in your story. Mm-hmm. You're also the expert in your craft, whatever that is.
So each expert they're the only ones who can write that book and bring it to life. Laura, I'm curious to hear your take of what is stopping people? Why aren't more folks making this journey, or maybe how do you help them over those first few steps when they're unsure of whether this is right for them?
Well, I love this idea because one of the first things I ask people when they work with me is I always ask two questions. I ask, why this book now? And if you could title the book today, what would the title be? And I think those two answers are the surest way to get you to the end. If you can answer those two questions, like why this book now? Well, you've been thinking about writing a book, but why now? Why is this moment so important to you? That tells you so much about what is the heart telling you, like what Deanna was saying about, the heart and the head, right? So I think it's so important to know your why, and that's usually in those two questions. And then the other really important thing that is really, I think people don't get, and this is the secret of writing a book, that is it seems like the most obvious thing, but it's not, is if you don't write a book, you're not going to help all the people you can't help otherwise, right? So we have all these signature programs, and we have offers, and we have ways to work with people ourselves, okay? But a book allows you to help people and fulfill their lives that you would never be able to help otherwise. And that one thing is just an amazing secret about writing a book. And it also has its own life and its own interpretation. And we're writing it for a certain thing. But then when you release a book, it goes out into the world. And it has so much power because so many people see it and pass it on. And, you know, I had recent news that one of my clients had a book recommendation or endorsement, I'm sorry, by Deepak Chopra. You know, it's just, if it's inside of you, I think it's fear. I think it's fear that keeps it inside. I really do. You know, what is more visible than putting your ideas out in the world, right? But what's the tragedy? That you die with them inside, you know? I mean, so it is just so compelling and wonderful that it's really kind of like outreach. You know, you have the solution to problems, and you can help so many more people in this medium than you would otherwise. So I think that's sort of the secret sauce of books that people overlook sometimes.
Yeah, I love these answers. And honestly, our audience is loving it too. I want to bring up, so Sylvia said, I love that reframe, Laura.
Okay.
Claire Richardson Bidenharn, I think I got the last name there, said, Diana has been a great resource for me. She really loved what you were sharing earlier. Christopher, I would love to hear, so in my mind, you have one of the most challenging target markets that you're working with, because you are a practicing physician yourself. You primarily work with other physicians who are then building, you know, essentially a business, passive streams of income, a business outside of their medical expertise. But you tap into all the things that made them get through medical school, become a great physician, like all that skill set, the ability to research, you know, to think things through and capture that in the form of a book. How are you working with this most challenging market? Because these are folks, including, I know yourself, Christopher, all respect to what you and your team are doing. It's not easy in the medical community right now. There's a lot of different challenges for folks out there, busier days than ever. And yet you're helping people give birth to what might be, you know, a life-changing moment for them to actually get their book out there and take their professional career to a new level.
It really is, you know, and I'd work mostly with physicians, but, you know, with any professional, this really applies. You know, you've got through the process of going through getting educated. You've got a ton of experience. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to use that knowledge and to create something outside of a 9-to-5 job, or in the case of healthcare, like 12-hour day jobs or longer. And that's honestly another stumbling block that, you know, a lot of people say, you know, I just don't have the time. I don't have the resources. I don't know where to start. And that's where working with somebody to help you get started, to hold you accountable, is so important, because there is such a high level of knowledge or experience. Sometimes you get overwhelmed. You know, I've got this idea or this idea or this idea. And then, you know, whether it's, you know, sitting down with a ghostwriter like Laura, or, you know, sometimes I use interviews where somebody doesn't feel comfortable writing. That's another excuse. We can just interview. There's more than one way to get that book out there. Don't let those excuses or hurdles get in your way. Because, like I said, it doesn't matter. You know, healthcare is tough. It's a challenge. You're committed. You've spent decades of your life to get to this point. And it applies the same way for, you know, if you're an attorney, if you're a financial professional, a real estate professional, you've put in a lot of time and energy, and you have that base of knowledge. Now you just got to look at a new way to, how am I going to get that out there? How am I going to share that with others? And one of the best ways is working with somebody who can kind of pull that out of you sometimes, especially for those busy individuals who don't feel like they have enough time to get that accomplished.
Yeah, I'm going to return to that point in a moment here to talk a little bit about the process, the different ways to solve this problem, different ways that each of you have found that works really well. I want to highlight a couple points that came in from our audience. So Karen Eber had shared, and I think this speaks to what you were just talking about, Christopher, which is this discipline, because I think we do treat authors differently, not just because their information is in a book and you can pick it up, but I think generally people recognize it's not easy to get a book out there, to do the discipline it takes to actually follow it all the way through to its conclusion and get it out in the hands of other people, not just write the book, but actually get it widely distributed. And so we respect it's a lifetime accomplishment. In some cases, professional writers that have multiple books out there, but even getting one out there seems to be a game changer that way. And then
instant credibility right away.
The other thing I want to, Eric Cavolo had asked a specific question. He said, I wrote the foreword to an Amazon international bestseller, but my own book is 6 months out. How do I leverage this differently? Let's bring this back to you, Laura, if you would.
Yeah. So broadly on all the things that we just talked about, or just Eric's question specifically?
Yeah, if you have an answer to the other questions, I wanted to bring you in on Eric's question specifically.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, this is a real powerful in, and what I would really, really do is the time isn't after you write your book to start getting some real traction for your book. You can do a lot of podcasts, you can do TV, you can do what I call is writing around the book. And when I've helped my authors do that, they've landed on NPR, they've gotten 50 million listeners, potential buyers for the book. So what you can do, and it's very important to do, is find the shows or things that you are best interested in to create a buzz where your readers will be. And then you customize a query. You don't send out, you really need to be very specific to the host. You have to very, very much know the show and that type of thing. And when you do that and you mention your credentials, you're already an authority or an international bestseller. And then you mention your true passion for whatever you're connecting with. People love to know that you love their show, or love to know that you found some wisdom in an episode or something like that. It's very much tailored specifically to that outlet. And you will find that you will get on outlets, and you will find this is genuine connection. This is as authentic as it gets. You are connecting where your readers
I think we lost audio from Laura for a second. Diana, I'd like to bring this over to you if we can for a second, because I know this is your sweet spot, which is the marketing strategy, not just getting the book done, but what happens when you actually have the book in hand. Can you talk with us a little bit about what your process looks like, and what should people be thinking about?
Yeah, kind of coming back to those questions that I asked people at the very beginning, the why are you writing it? Who's it for? What's the problem that it solves? What do you want to be known for? Because this book is going to be out in the world, as Laura said, it's going to be out for a long time and your name is attached to it. But the other key question, and I asked this at the very beginning, imagine that you have this book in your hand. What is happening for you? Personally, what is happening in your business? Tell me what result that we really want. And again, I asked this early in the process, so that if they say to me, I want to use it to attract my ideal clients, like why would I want to write a book to anybody except my ideal clients? They're the people I want to bring into my world, right? I want to attract ideal clients. I want to become a sought after podcast guest. When everything opens back up, I'd love to be speaking on bigger stages. I'd love to have Jack Canfield write the endorsement for my book. Like this, whatever that result is. And again, this is the process brain that I just told you about. I reverse engineer from what they told me and said, okay, so while we're writing the book, these are the connections we need to make. These are the people we should be following. these are the podcast shows we should be targeting, and I'm helping them get that marketing piece done and figured out well before we get to the finish line.
Yeah, it sounds like there is a lot. It's not just a book process or writing the book. The book is at the hub of a much bigger conversation that's happening, and all these different steps. Laura mentioned, writing or conversing around the book, using the book as a conversation starter to create all these relationships and join in with folks. Christopher, I'd like to jump to you for a second, because we actually have a question that I think is right up in your alley, which is Andrew said, what are your thoughts on, doing a book by interviewing people for that content, or having other experts write a chapter of the book? I know that you've experienced both of those different formats. I'd love to hear your take on why you did one versus the other and the sort of advantages or disadvantages.
Certainly. One of the things that I think is important is that you're establishing your expertise, but that does not mean you have to be the expert. You can be an authority by bringing other experts together, and that's what a compilation book does. I've been involved in compilation books, both as an author, and been able to get in books that included names like Deepak Chopra and those kind of guys, with Dennis Waitley and others. Those being in the same category as those guys, and that allows you the opportunity to borrow some of their expertise and some of their credibility and some of their authority. So there's definitely a plus to it. The downside is when you're trying to get 10 or 15 other authors to get their content together, it can turn into herding cats. And what may have been a 3-month or 4-month project now becomes a 2 or 3 year project in some cases. And I've done that. I've turned around within 90 days, one compilation book. And I'll be honest, there was one where I had people signed up and they never got off the ground. Like they said that they were going to sign up. They were ready to go. A couple of the authors joined in, their colleagues and compatriots that were working with them, never got their content. And that's the only book I in my career as a thought leader accelerator program that I could not get them all on the same page. So if you're going to do a compilation book, it's great. It does help you borrow authority, but on the flip side, you got to remember, you've got to hold them accountable. And there's only so much that you can force people to do if they're not willing to sit down with you, whether you're doing interviews or having them submit chapters on their own.
One of the questions that has come up, this was actually discussed prior to this event when folks knew we were gathering the panel of experts to talk about books and boosting your business with a book, was around the idea of self-publishing, which has really come to the front. I think more and more people are choosing this path. And so I'd love to explore a little bit here why folks are choosing to go this route, what the advantages are there versus, and I'm going to call this one might rankle some of you guys a little bit, but I also hear, I'm going to be the voice of the audience out there, the person who says, I want to write a real book. I want a real book. And what does that actually mean to write a real book? And does that mean traditional publishing, or what's involved in that? I'd love to hear the take, because you guys are working with clients that are entering this publishing world and guiding them through this minefield of self-publishing and real books and everything else that might get in the way of their objectives that Diana, you had laid out for us. They have goals that they want to accomplish. Mm-hmm. What's going to get them there? And that, Diana, I mentioned your name. Let's go to you if you'd share a little bit. And Laura, I know we got you back. I'll bring you back in just a moment. We lost your audio a short time ago, so we'll get you back in here in a moment.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking me that question, because I get it. That question comes up for me a lot. And here's the thing. If you have a big message to get out on the world, the fastest way to do it is to self-publish. That's the fastest way to do it. There is no, it is the fastest way to do it. You're not asking for anybody for permission. You're not writing a proposal. You're not looking for an agent who's going to pitch you to a publisher in 3 years from now. You're still in the process hoping that somebody somewhere is going to take your book, because As stark as this might sound, publishers are in business to make money. And they are not going to take you as a first-time author unless you have a big following and you have a track record that you can sell books. And if you already had that following and you already had the expertise to sell books, you wouldn't need a publisher. So, and the other thing I think people don't really understand is that the publisher has the final say on the cover, on the content. Like, be careful, read the fine print, because what we want to believe is that the publisher is going to, quote unquote, market the book. No, they're not. They might write a press release. They might put a page on their website, but at the end of the day, the responsibility to get this message out belongs to you. So when you even look at the financial side of this, to me, the clear answer is self-publishing.
Well, does that preclude some of the things that people normally think of when it, having your book in traditional bricks and mortar bookstores, for example? What are the downsides or constraints on the self-publishing side?
I think a lot of people, and it's very unfortunate, like sometimes we equate self-publishing to homemade. I'll just say it that way. But the truth is, there is no reason that your self-published book cannot be the same quality as anything any of the publishers put out. You have to have the right cover designer. You have to have editing. You have to have your interior formatted so the interior looks like it goes with the book. You can't shortchange any of those things and expect that your book is going to draw the attention of other people. You have to be willing to invest, but it really is all about speed. In my world, like, it's all about speed. I just mentioned, like, my process, I have an 8-month process start to finish. You can do this. And I worked with 80 people to prove that we can do this. So I just say, no, don't wait. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission. And at the end of the day, they're going to take a portion of the royalties and you're not going to be left with much.
Yeah, I think that is a message that a lot of entrepreneurs can associate with. James Altucher has a book called Choose Yourself. And I think entrepreneurs like that idea of, I'm going to choose myself and make my own way in the process. Laura, I'd love to hear your take a little bit, because I know that with the diversity of projects that you've worked with as a ghostwriter, you've seen both sides of this. What is your take on what's happening in the marketplace, and what guidance would you give folks out there?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the author and the book and the message. I mean, I've worked with authors that are working with traditional publishers who need somebody to come in and clean up their manuscript or not get published, and have incredible deadlines and really need this book to be traditionally published for various reasons, whether it's academic or whatever. Entrepreneurs that I write for, they're very interested in timely things, like for blockchain and cryptocurrency. The minority female entrepreneur that I needed to write in the healthcare space needed to have that come out immediately, like yesterday. So, it really is about the why. It really does drive the publishing choices. And there's hybrid now choices between the two. So it's like you're publishing with a publisher behind you. So there's a middle ground too. So it's just what serves the message. That's what it's all about. I have people that are working with traditional publishers, no problem. So it really is about what will be good for the message and the author also, to be honest with you, because the authors that are very comfortable with writing in self-publishing and in that world, in that space for their message, because it's immediate, it's something that has to be out now, it's great, because you have to be ready to support it, and you need to be ready to be out there at, like, every author now. Every author is really important to show up for their message. And so it really is so diverse. It just depends on the project.
Christopher, I'm going to come to you next. I think we've hit a nerve, folks, with this. I talk about self-publishing versus traditional publishing. We've had a bunch of questions. Sylvia had asked a couple here. Does self-publishing as a first-time author make it look less in some way? Again, going back to this real book question and sort of what the perception is out there. And also, what about ebooks? Is there a meaningful way or is there best practices for a first-time author to get their work out there and sort of get their feet wet in a way that allows them to build momentum into what might eventually become multiple books? Christopher, I'd love to hand this one over to you.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything wrong with self-publishing as a first-time author. In fact, again, as Diana mentioned, you get it out there faster, you get to keep more of the royalties, and you're going to be able to, even if you go traditional, you're still responsible for promoting it, no matter what the misperception is out there about they're going to do all these book signings and all those things you can do on your own and probably do a better job of promoting yourself. So I would definitely, as a first-time author, I do recommend self-publishing just so you can get out there and get going, because you're going to be able to control the content. You want to be able to control the message, and the goals of a traditional publisher may not line up with your goals for the book. And second of all, ebooks are a terrific way to get started. If you can sell ebooks, then you can sell a paperback book. If you can sell a paperback book, you can sell a hard book. It's just about what your reader preferences are. And you can even do audio books, down the road if you want to take your content and put it in that format. That's just about choosing the right format for your audience. With professionals, a lot of them want something physical so they can give it away or sell it as from the back of the room if they're speaking. Or to go in conjunction with a mastermind program or online course they're doing. Ebooks, though, I tell you, I've got some books that I keep that when I first started writing that are only in ebook format, and I keep getting sales, 6, 8, 10 years later. That I keep telling myself I want to go on Amazon and put it on CreateSpace or the Kindle Direct now, because it's so easy, and I should do that. But to be honest, I didn't need to, because I'm not really promoting those books. They just keep churning out sales as ebooks. So I think going ebooks as a first-time author, there's nothing wrong with that. It just, again, depends on the format of your reader and then what you want that book to be for you in the long run.
Folks, we have so many questions coming in on different topics. So I'm going to give you a preview of a couple questions, but first let's talk about the rest of the agenda for our event. This is important because some of you out there, I can see your names, you're new in our community. I don't want you to miss this next step. And that is that we're going to be networking shortly. Let me get the right banner up here. So you can actually join us for Q&A. We're doing a little bit of Q&A now. You probably noticed that, but you can actually sit at the table, the virtual table with each of our experts. We'll be mixing and matching our experts, not only here on the panel, but in the audience. We're going to go over to AirMeet. That link is actually in the comments down below, wherever you're watching this. It might be on Facebook, you might be on LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you're seeing this, the live stream, you can actually find that link. We're going to our event space on AirMeet, where you'll register, come in, and we have a virtual table set up for each of our experts. You can sit down, think of it like a breakout session if you have a couple additional questions. And then after that, we'll be doing the speed networking, where you can actually meet other folks, experts. This has been one of the most interesting things that we actually do with our community, which is introduce experts to other experts. It's great to know who the folks are, maybe with an expertise that is complementary or strategic to what you're already doing. We want to help make those connections as part of what we do at bookofexperts.com. The other thing I want to mention to folks is that if you're not familiar with bookofexperts.com, make sure you go and check us out there, see what we're doing. It's all about creating those referrals and strategic partners and introductions that will help you take your business to another level, talking about topics like we're doing books tonight. If you enjoyed the episode that we're doing here, we would love it if you would, rate and review us. If you're listening on one of the podcasts, if you'd leave comments on one of our live streams. Heck, the experts that joined you tonight, go look them up on LinkedIn, make a connection, leave a recommendation if you really enjoyed what we're talking about. This is how you make that connection with one other person and start a conversation that literally might change the trajectory of your professional career or your business. So I would invite you to do that. Last couple of questions that I want to share with folks that are coming in. So we've had questions about Laura, actually, each of you have talked a little bit about building that community, talking around the book. So that may be a question that we dig a little bit deeper into in the small roundtable discussions that we go to next. We've had questions about the printing, publishing side of things, like print on demand options versus doing runs of books. We have not talked about yet, but there are a bunch of questions about the marketing side and what actually is involved in becoming an Amazon bestseller. And Diana, you had brought that up very early in the conversation. You can see there are tons of questions here, more than we're going to be able to tackle in our last few minutes here. The one thing before we do sort of wrap up thoughts from each of our experts is, here's what's going to happen next. We're going to do expert panel picks of the week. That's something that we love doing whenever we gather a group of experts together. We love to hear their pick of the week, because this could be a book, it could be an app, it could be a something that they've found recently that they're absolutely loving, is making a difference in their world. And we get some of the best recommendations, things that you might never have even thought about, but you hear from one of our expert panels, they share it, and all of a sudden it becomes one of your favorite tools as well. So we'll do that in a moment. We'll do wrap up and also calls to action. I want to make sure you know how to enter the world for each of our experts, how to follow up and connect with them. Of course, you see we've got we'll get their URLs back on the screen so you can find folks that way as well. But how you can enter their world, how you can keep the conversation going. And then, of course, I'll hit one more time that AirMeet link. I'll make sure we put it in the comments so you guys can join us over on AirMeet. We'll literally be shutting down the live stream, which is, again, on all the different social media platforms. We'll go into AirMeet, which is our virtual meeting space, and that's where we've set up the tables, so you can talk with other experts who are in the audience or with our panel as well. So to give you guys a break, I'll go first, not to put any pressure on you, but for the panel pick of the week, I'm actually going to share one of our clients actually just published one of his books. I want to give him a shout out because he got a copy, and it says Karen Mangia. I'm actually talking about our client who was a ghostwriter on this project. And the amazing thing, I'm so excited to dig into this one because I love the topic of gathering information instead of guessing at it, actually listening to your clients and customers and gathering that information. And the book was written, it's published by Wiley. It was done in 30 days. That's how quickly it was a very relevant COVID creation project that came together. So I'm kind of excited to have one in my hands and be able to share it with you guys as well. Let's go to Christopher. Would you share your panel pick of the week?
Yeah, I want to go old school. If you want to be an author, you got to read books and you got to write. So if you have access to your public library, get a hold of the Libby app for your phone. If you're driving somewhere, don't bother listening to the radio or the news. It's depressing. Find books in your category, your area of expertise, and just listen to them. You don't have to go through all of them. I crank it up to about 2 times speed. And just by hearing other people's thoughts, ideas, it jogs my own ideas as well and gives me additional thoughts that I can use to write. And then, so that's the first half, is read a lot, and then second, write a lot. If you have the dictation on your phone, whether you use Evernote or Notes or any of those apps, any idea you have, just put it in there. Start collecting thoughts and ideas every day. And using those 2 things, you're going to find you have a lot of great content before you know it.
I love the suggestion. How do you spell the app that you're able to access the audiobooks through the library?
It's Libby, Libby.
Okay.
Great. And there's I think there's another one called Overdrive that's similar, but I use the Libby on through my public library. So it's free. You get to enjoy a lot of different creative individuals.
Super. I love that recommendation because I do a lot through Audible, but I haven't tried the free option as well. It's always exciting. Let's make a note, experts, as well, to that I want to talk about. You may hear this question actually at the virtual tables when we do go into the networking, this question about speaking or recording or talking through your book. I think that is one that we definitely have not covered and gotten into tonight, but I think your thoughts around what that process might look like and how to get a better book from that process. I think that's something that each of you may want to make a note about. I just wanted to emphasize that. Diana, how about you? What is your panel pick of the week?
Well, we've been talking about building your community. And I know you just mentioned that, someone was asking about the bestseller process. And really, in order to run a bestseller campaign, you have to have partnerships and you have to have relationships with other people. So the tool that I use to track all of that and all of those conversations is something, now don't laugh, guys, it's something called Less Annoying CRM. Less Annoying CRM. I track all of my sales conversations, all of my partner conversations, my meetings with clients. It lets me BCC, and I can keep copies of all the emails I've sent to them, and I can research everything, and I can actually put little reminders and events on my calendar so it pops up every day and says, okay, this is what you've got this is who you're supposed to follow up with today, because staying on top of those things is challenging. So I use Less Annoying CRM every single day.
I think
I
think they had a really good feel for their audience and what was going to speak to that particular pain point. So
yeah.
Wonderful. Laura, how about you? Your panel pick of the week.
I love Pro Writing Aid. It's an app that really helps. It's the bomb for grammar and spelling. So it's just something that really helps you draft quick, clean, wonderful, whether it's a note, whether it's a post, whether it's a chapter in a book. It's a really great aid to have for writing. And just old school, back to like what we were talking about in terms of writing and reading books. For writing, I'm a lover of old school journaling lately. Just really enjoyed the process more than ever. And also thrift stores for books. I found an amazing book of historical letters that's informing a book that I'm writing right now, personal project. And so inspiration's everywhere.
I love that. Excuse me. So if we could do a quick around the room just to make sure we get the calls to action in for each of you. I want folks to be able to hear. Laura, we'll stay with you since we've already got you on. Talk about the best place for folks to connect with you to keep the conversation going.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, if they want to check out more about the process and, what it's different projects that I've worked on, stuff like that, laurasmagicday.com is great. There's a lot of writing samples there too. And then LinkedIn's probably the best way to see what's going on and getting writing tips. I post.
Super. Yeah. We lost Laura's audio there at the end. The one thing I would encourage you guys, if you haven't seen this, Laura's not just a beautiful writer in book form, but also sharing some of her posts, particularly in the summertime when she's out sailing for weeks at a time. She calls them the summer camp series. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you actually get a chance to catch some of that as well.
Thanks.
Let's do Diana's. No, we've got everyone's pick. Now we're doing calls to action, excuse me. So let's do Diana's call to action.
Yeah, well, you can find me on LinkedIn as well as Facebook, and note that there's an M in the middle initial, DianaMNeedham.com. Diana M, I'm Diana M, like everywhere, marketing, messaging, whatever you want to call it. But one of the things for anybody here who's thinking about writing a book and you're an entrepreneur, an author, or speaker, and you're looking to join a community, I actually have an entrepreneur author community on Facebook called Build Your Business with a Book. Alliteration on the B's, build your business with a book. So if you want to connect and come over and be part of that amazing community, we'd welcome you with open arms.
That's great. I'm glad you got that in there. And Christopher, how about you? What would be the best way for folks to continue the conversation with you?
Yeah, just look me up on LinkedIn. It's Christopher Burton MD. You can also email me, info@ChristopherBurtonMD.com. Don't forget the MD, otherwise it goes to some upscale home builder in South Florida, and that just won't help you at all. But otherwise, you can feel free to message me on LinkedIn. I do check that just about every day. It's almost as much as my email anymore. But I look forward to connecting with all of you, and if there's anything I can do to help you along that journey, even if it's just to point out some resources along the way, definitely look me up.
I appreciate you guys. You've all been so generous sharing your perspectives, your work that you're actually doing, your ideas, and alerts that folks can be using to sort of watch out for some of the pitfalls along the way. A couple things that I've done. So I did put the AirMeet link back in the comments, so folks, you don't have to dig around and search for that. Diana, I also put I got your link in there for Build Your Business with a Book, the community. That's actually thrown in the comments as well, so folks will be able to find that easily. What we're going to do now, remember I told you we're going to jump over to that other platform. This is where we go into the Q&A, the speed networking. We've got all that. We're actually running on a new platform. It's called AirMeet, and we will see you over there in just a few minutes. We'll be starting right now. It's 8 minutes till the top of the hour. At the top of the hour, we'll actually be getting started there and run for about 45 minutes, where you'll have a chance to talk with our experts, maybe even some of the experts that have been in the audience asking some of these great questions. I want to thank you guys so much, each of you, for taking the time to join us to talk about building your business with a book, boosting your business with a book, taking it to a whole other level. I so appreciate you guys taking the time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.